if you could say like traveling and doing all of that hobbies versus startup, what would you choose?
I always know part of me wanted to like get through that whole process of like building and business selling, because that's kind of like how, the American dream and all that.
You have customers and you also have users. So it's a little trickier for you because you have to cater to both.
So I think there's a lot of challenges for sure, but the one good thing that's going for us is that we have no choice but to make it work.
What is next for Mr. Pineapple? Imagine being 19 years old, an international student, navigating a life in a completely new country. And instead of following a traditional path of, graduating, getting a high flying career, you decide that you want to launch your startup from your dorm room without a single dollar from VC funds. Fast forward 2 years, your startup gets acquired for millions of dollars. You get a spot on the Forbes 30 under 30, and you get to travel to 32 new countries within 1 year. Sounds like a dream, right? Well, it's actually not. In today's episode, I sit down with Bolun Li, who is the founder of Zogo, a financial literacy app, who built this app out of his dorm room at Duke University, proving that you don't really need millions of dollars to build something that's successful. A single thing that makes Solo so successful? Well, we're going to have to watch and see what that is. So stay tuned. All right. Thanks so much for joining me, Bolin. It's a pleasure to have you, especially considering that we're both Dukies. When I first stumbled upon you, I was like, oh my God, he's from Duke and he launched the startup so young. That was awesome. So excited to have you.
Awesome, great to be here.
Awesome. So you basically launched Zogo when you were 19 years old from your dorm room at Duke. And within 2 years, it got acquired, and you have 1.5 million users. I'm sure it's probably more now. And you had like Amex and a US bank and other clients and customers who basically started using it. I want to understand, how did this idea come to you? Like where did it come from? Just like the conception or the inception of it all. Can you quickly
Yeah,
give us a bit background?
for sure. Yeah, like you said, I was at Duke University as a student, and at Duke they had these like financial literacy seminars for young people, right? And you kind of go there, and then usually it's sponsored by a bank, like a local bank, and they will give this like really long presentations, right, of like how to budget, how to no one pay attention to that. And then I realized by the end of those meetings, they would give the students a little card that says, earn $20 when you open a checking account, right, at the bank, some shape or form. So that really kind of inspired us to be like, wait, first of all, the financial institution don't really know how to deliver engaging financial education content to young people, but the rewards piece is really, something they've done for a long time, and it's very interesting for young people to get the reward. Any money, right, is good for college students. So what if we can combine the two and kind of build this engaging experience for young people to learn about finance and then reward them for doing it through the bank? That was kind of how it all started.
Mhm. So you went to the seminar and you started alone or with co-founders?
I started alone at the beginning, like kind of just have friends kind of helping out here and there, and then later I met my co-founders who helped build out the tech, because I'm not technical, so my co-founder was the one that built out the technical side of things for the company.
Okay, awesome. So how did you validate that this idea is actually, valid?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of hard work, to be honest, and trial and errors at the beginning. But eventually, what we got to a point is we actually signed the first 10 bank customers before we built the products, which was a huge insight, right? Is you can actually pre-sell something before you built it, and it gives you a lot more validation on what you're building is the right thing to do. So yeah, so we built the first 10, oh, we sold the first 10 customers before we even built the products. And that was one of the best decisions we made.
So did they just actually make payment commitments or signed up somehow?
Yeah, I actually made payment commitment. Just crazy. Yeah.
That is the best validation you can ever get, right?
Yeah. I guess it was pretty convincing, and it shows how much demand there is, right? Even when there's like just a PowerPoint presentation of what we're thinking about building, people are
Mhm.
into it. So
So you got the validation from the banks basically, and you started building an MVP. Could you tell a little bit about the process? Like, how did you start? Was it like a shitty first draft type of thing, and then you tested it? Or what was the this process like?
Oh, that's so long ago. I'm trying to remember. I mean, it's definitely shitty first draft. We throw things into the trash many, many times.
Mhm.
But at the end, we realized, wait a second, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Duolingo is already doing an amazing job with teaching language in a gamified way. Why don't we just kind of take some of that components and then apply it to financial education, right? And we famously came up with a pineapple concept in the app where people
Mhm.
are earning pineapples for learning financial literacy. So that's when kind of things all kind of came together. But it was difficult at first. It was like all over the place. We were doing all kinds of stuff.
And you were testing with probably other students, right? So how they were using the app, or what was the process like? Or did you also talk to the banks as well as you were iterating?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking. It was so funny when we first came up with the first iteration of the app. We actually went to the mall next to Duke. I think it's called South Point Mall or something. I forgot.
Yes,
And we
South
bought
Point.
a bunch of cash with it, like a $1 cash. And we would just grab kids in the mall and be like, "Hey, let me give you some money," and just like try out the app and tell us what you think. Right. So that was the first talking about like grinding and like, the initial unscalable user testing. Like that was we definitely did a lot of that early on.
Nice. Okay, so you tested it. How long did it take you to actually get to something that you were happy with?
Oh, like 3 months, maybe 3, 4 months.
Mhm.
I can't remember, but you can't really say 3, 4 months because there's a lot of iteration even before the product was launched. Before we officially got to this idea as well. So a long time, long time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There are a lot of challenges basically building any type of startup, any type of product. But on top of that, you're also an international student, or you were an international student at the time. What would you say are the challenges of an international student, someone who's trying to launch a business, an app in a different country? What did you experience?
Well, it's really weird, right? Because when you're international, you have a lot of visa issue, which is something, Americans don't really have to think about. It's a good thing and a bad thing. I think it's bad because you have to deal with, getting the visa sorted out and stuff. But it's good because you just don't have any choice but to succeed. Otherwise, you can't stay in the country, right? Uh,
Yeah.
so it's just like a really good, I think it's good and bad. But also it's really difficult because a lot of investors don't want to really touch the immigrants founders because they think there's it's higher risk, right?
Yeah.
And I was barely speaking English very well when I first started this whole thing.
Mhm.
Uh, so I think there's a lot of challenges for sure, but the one good thing that's going for us is that we have no choice but to make it work. Yeah.
Right. And as far as I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, you did not actually raise any VC money. No?
Never raised VC money. It's very much a bootstrapped effort. Yeah.
Did you get any grants, any type of like other type of support?
Yeah, we got some grants, some like angel, like Duke alum
Mhm.
investor that I helped out with like $5,000 check here and there. And and they were very, very helpful. Not the money, because we were profitable pretty much since the beginning, but it's the momentum that you get when people are like believing in your ideas and like supporting you. That I think that was like super, super important for us early on to get that support. But I tried to raise VC money many, many times, and no one ever wanted to do it. And it
Yeah.
turns out again, it was actually a good thing that we never raised VC money. Um,
Yeah. They didn't want to do it because of the visa restrictions and limitations, or were there other challenges? They didn't really believe in the product. What was the case with the VCs?
I think there's a little bit of both, right? Because I couldn't drop out of school. That I have to do school while I was doing startup. So that I think scared like 80% of them away probably.
Mm.
But then it's like, the I think there's a lot of other stuff as well. But I think that part is like they really wanted me to drop out and I just can't drop out.
Yeah, because of the visa. So you basically didn't drop out. You got your degree and you got your startup
I got my degree. I had to graduate a year early so that I can officially do the startup. So I had to like figure out how to like get through Duke a year early.
that is
Uh,
crazy. I could not imagine doing that within 3 years. I mean, I did my master's, it was 2 years, but I know that bachelor's is even tougher than that.
yeah, so that was not a fun time, but actually it was fun, but it was just like a very intense few years of my life. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. So, okay, so you started in 2019, and throughout the journey, within the 2 years, you managed to get
Two
basically
and
an
a half.
exit. So, two and
Two
a
and a half.
half, right? So it got acquired. And what was that process like? How did you from the start know that you wanted to be acquired? What were your aspirations with the business, and how did it turn out?
I mean, I always know part of me wanted to like get through that whole process of like building and business selling, because that's kind of like how, the American dream and all that. I didn't know it was gonna happen that fast. But the timing was just like crazy because it was during COVID. Um, so the price were great. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, we sold the company for 36 million in 2.5 years. So like that is, I don't think you get that in any other era versus what happened in the COVID situations, right? So in a sense, we got very lucky, I think. I don't think we were planning to sell the company at
Mhm.
all, but the everything just came together. We love the company that bought us. It was a great partnership. Even till today, like Zogo is still doing great because of the support from the parent company. So
Mhm.
overall, great decisions for everyone.
Yeah. So you don't regret that it got acquired, basically. It was a decision that that's really good. So if you look back at your journey within this 2.5 years, what would you say is the single most challenging part for you?
The loneliness for sure.
Mhm.
Like you constantly have to battle this thing of like everyone think it's stupid. Like especially when we first started the concept, paying people to learn. I mean, you can imagine we were the first company to do this get paid to learn thing.
Mm.
Right? And people were just like, how is that even possible? Like people usually you have to pay for education normally, right? Like how are you getting paid? How are you gonna make that work, right? Um, so there's a lot of doubt, I think, around a lot of people, and just navigating that, and it was really really tough while doing school and having a social life at Duke.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Probably didn't have much social life at the time.
Yeah.
No. Okay. So for if I'm thinking about banks, what was in it for them? It's basically they tapped into a whole new market, right? Probably Gen Zs were just getting their credit cards, and this was a way to include them and make them have credit cards with their bank. And was that the case? Like, what was their incentive?
Yeah, it's a lot about like attracting younger people. It's about educating their customer base and engaging their customer base digitally. And also banks and credit unions have a mandate from the government to invest in financial education, so that also helped. But it's a variety of things that kind of.
That makes sense. And what do you think was the kind of the success formula that you had? Because I feel like it was right timing for sure. Because that was like we didn't have a lot of financial literacy apps at the time. Also, right targeting of the right segment, and you kind of found this space, right time, right place, right people type of thing. What do you think was the success formula of Zogo?
Successful is taking care of customers, and
Mm.
everything is about the customers, right? Because we don't have any VC or venture investor money, like a big, millions and millions of dollars in the bank, we were forced to pay attention to all of our customers.
Yeah.
Uh, and a lot of people, I think, are forgetting that like, good business is really a business that have great customers that are paying you for the value that you're bringing. And we were just laser focused on them because in a way they were our investors, right? We were operating because they were paying us, and that was first getting the first paying customer to getting the first 10 paying customers to then going from 10 to 100. um, just so much you learn about how to make the product better as well while you're doing that.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So for me, like when I think about it, you have customers and you also have users. So it's a little trickier for you because you have to cater to both, right? What was that? Who did you prioritize, the customer or the user?
It's we never really had to worry that much about the bank because the bank at the end of the day want people to use the app, right? They want people
Hmm.
to engage with their bank through the financial education app that we have. So it was really, really good for us in the sense that we really wanted to make sure the app was a good experience for the users. And then from the bank side, it's more about the analytics and being able to, show them that things are working, so on and so forth, less so than anything else. It's not really a B2B SaaS product. It's more like a B2B2C, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, you were making sure that the users are happy and the banks were kind of along with the ride. Okay,
exactly.
that makes sense. That makes sense. So you basically, within this short period of time, you lived an entire life of an entrepreneur, and probably looking back, it's like you seem to be like you're 40 now. Probably a lot of entrepreneurs. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs that you're only get there when they're 40, right? So you got it started, you graduated, the startup got acquired, and then you did a whole other thing. And I want to know, what did you do after you actually after the startup got acquired?
Yeah, well, I basically traveled the world.
Hmm.
I don't know what other ways to put it. I tried a lot of things in life that I never thought I would be able to try at this age, I guess. I
Yeah.
went to last year. I went to like 32 countries in a year and just go one place. I don't think I've ever stayed in the same city more than like 5 days last year, just bouncing around wherever I want to go.
Mhm.
And if and also the toys and like getting some of that childhood dream. I love cars. That was like one of the things I loved the most growing up. So did a lot of racing and like stuff like that, just like hobbies, because I never really had a hobby while I was running the company.
Mhm.
uh, Although I would say at the very end of all of that, you kind of still realize um like the thing that gets me most excited is making progress in the mission, um and so going back to company building or whatever it means, right? To just build towards something versus just mindlessly wander around the world. um
Yeah, that was going to be my next question because, you had this intense period of work, 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 and then you had this period when you just traveled and explored your hobbies, which I'm sure that was useful. But the takeaway from all of this, like this visiting 32 countries, again, like I said, like people probably in their 40s only look back and say, oh, I've done this, 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 and you're so young and you've done so many things. So your biggest takeaway would be what you just said, which is you are more fulfilled when you are making progress and you are building towards a mission, purpose. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, I think it's like when you wake up in the morning, what do you think about, right? I remember when I was traveling the world, I wake up in the morning thinking about, it's almost like thinking about, oh, where should I go get coffee today? Or like, where should I go have lunch today? It just doesn't feel very continuous because every day is going to be a whole new thing, right? Versus back in the day when I was building Zogo, every morning I was thinking, how can I make Zogo better? Like, what is going to happen today about Zogo, right? And to me,
Mhm.
that is just a lot more fun. You never know what's going to happen, but there's a clear thread of things that you're working towards.
Yes, I love that. I think that is such a good takeaway because I feel exactly the same way when there is a thread, when it's continuous and progressing, you feel like you are moving towards something. When it's like no matter what, you're in the best hotels, you're traveling and you're doing this amazing things and whatever, but when there is no clear purpose and it's not sustainable, there's no thread, like you said, it really doesn't seem that purposeful, or maybe doesn't seem as fulfilling, you would say. So if you could say like traveling and doing all of that hobbies versus startup, what would you choose?
I would choose, I think it was a good thing that I did the traveling. I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, but I would
Hmm.
definitely choose the startup path. And I'm trying to do that right now, right? It's getting back to the US and settling down. But I don't regret it at all. Traveling, I think it opened up, it showed me a different way of living, to be honest, that I didn't
Hmm.
know before. But yeah, I picked the startup path for sure.
And a similar question in the same lines. If you could look back at your entrepreneurial journey, how did you change as a person? Like, what were some of the things that you could say, like, oh, I'm a completely different person now in this way? What would that be?
I think I'm more aware of what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. It just became clearer and clearer. And it's like a self-actualization process, which is why it's painful, right? Sometimes because you see the ugly side of yourself, but you also see kind of the potential in yourself as well. But definitely like learn more about myself. It's like a relationship. It's like you had a relate like a massive relationship with the company, and it helps you discover a lot about a lot about yourself.
So it was a self-discovery process, and it happened within 2 to 2.5 years for you, which really probably was eye-opening. What is next for Mr. Pineapple?
You know, obviously, I go back and forth between SF and Austin, and AI has been like top of mind for me and for a lot of people here. And now I really see this huge opportunity where people like myself previously who don't have that technical ability or technical background can leverage AI and leverage everything that's been built around in the past literally 12 months to do things they previously don't think they could do, right?
Yeah.
Um, I just think there's such a huge opportunity for non-technical domain expert founders to launch their business, and I want to build a platform to support them in that process of making their first 100,000 or whatever that is, $100,000, right? Um, from their own product versus selling other people's products.
Yes, exactly. I love that. I think it's so inspiring because we all hear, oh, AI is going to revolutionize the way that entrepreneurs work. We all hear it's going to be so much easier, it's going to be less costly. I had John Reischneider of Duke University as my guest previously, and this is exactly what he said. It's going to make it so much easier for entrepreneurs to launch their startups, and it's going to be cheaper, faster, and all of that. But yet again, a lot of us, especially those without technical backgrounds like myself, we just find it very difficult and challenging to know how to
It's
navigate.
challenging. Yeah, you
Yeah.
always think like you have this one leg missing, basically,
Mhm.
that you don't know anything about tech when the company is literally a tech company. But you probably know more than anyone else of your specific domain area that you're very good at, and you're very good at sales. So then what do you do in that situation? You usually find a co-founder or find a dev shop, or like, it's just like not very tricky when
Yeah.
entrepreneurship is already so wishy-washy and uncertain, if the
Yeah.
add uncertainty to it. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be one of your first users in that respect. So count me in.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. If you could give advice to someone who's starting out as an entrepreneur now, um, just looking at your back at your journey and like taking all of the lessons that you had from the journey, what would that advice be?
Get your first paying customers. Yeah, don't
Mhm.
worry about anything else. I mean, product, great, like build a somewhat okay products, but get the first customers. There's nothing more important than get your first paying customers. I think for me, that was when the aha moment hit and was like, oh wait, this is real now, right?
Mhm.
And I think especially for those solopreneurs out there, people that are starting out, the really big hump to get over, um, to not obsessively focus on the products and making it better and better, better, but to focus on getting the first customers.
Yeah, before you actually start building, or hopefully, or at least when you at least have something, right, to show for, then you can start to show, they need to show the commitment, so it's
Yeah.
easier for you. Yeah, that's amazing. Actually, I have an extra question for you. I
Okay.
know y- I have this on my wish list, by the way, Forbes 30 under 30, which is not going to happen because I'm above 30 now. But you are Forbes 30 under 30. You are on the list. So, how did it feel like to get that title and how did that happen, basically?
Well, it happened after I sold the company.
Mm,
Literally like 2 months after the acquisition was closed. So it really didn't feel that much at that point because I feel like the acquisition was just so much. Again, it's like the fame versus the actual thing, right?
mm,
It just doesn't feel as meaningful as it probably would have felt for me like before. But I still think I met a lot of great friends through the Forbes 30 under 30 network. So it's so good to be part of like a ambitious group of people. It's just yeah, it's just once it was literally happened right after the acquisition and just maybe dilutes the value a little bit.
mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. So basically, you're in community with other people who are also successful, and you have this ability to tap into the network.
Yeah,
That was one of the advantages that it gives you.
yeah,
Makes
exactly.
sense. All right, Bolin. Thank you so much. This was super informative and insightful. I really hope to see what you're doing next and hope to interview you after you launch your next startup because I think what you're doing right now is definitely something that people need, especially younger generations and also those who are non-technical and
Mhm.
don't have the technical background. So good luck with that. I can't wait to see what you're doing next.
Awesome. Thank you so much.